Hello everyone, and welcome back to Baseballology, where we look at the current Hall of Famers and discuss their worthiness of induction. As always, I don't advocate for anyone's removal from the Hall of Fame, but I do like talking about the histories of these players, as well as how to rank them. Now, stop me if you've heard this one before. Today's players are only interested in the money. The older players played for the love of the game. While it's true there is more money in the game today than there has ever been, I can promise you that once the professional league became real, players were always interested in the money. There are a lot of famous examples in baseball history even before free agency began. Take Monty Ward's work with the Players Association reserve clause back in the 1800s. Or a more recent example would be Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale holding out in spring training. Today's players seem to be in a contract battle every time he turned around. Today we're looking at Red center fielder Edd Roush. Roush was an excellent hitter in his career, which spanned from 1913 to 1931. He slashed .323, .369, .446, with a WRC plus of 127. Roush preferred slap hitting to the uptick in power, and wielded a short 48-ounce bat. He once remarked that he would only take half a swing, and let the weight of the bat drive the ball. This method of hitting saw Roush produce 339 doubles and 182 triples, despite only hitting 68 home runs in his career. On the bases, Roush also displayed some decent speed. He stole 200 bases, scored 1,000 runs, and was worth about 10 runs above average as a base runner. This gives Roush a well-rounded resume as a player who could do a little bit of everything during his career. But we kind of talked about this yesterday with George Kell. Jack-of-all-trades players don't tend to hold up well in Cooperstown, unless they're Willie Mays-like or Mike Trout-like, and not only do everything well, but excel at every aspect. So is that the problem with Roush's induction? Partly, but it also goes beyond that. I mentioned at the beginning Roush was constantly in contract disputes. He was first signed by the White Sox in 1913, but he didn't care for a demotion that they gave him at the end of the season, so he broke his contract with them and signed with the Federal League for 1914. After the 1915 season, the Federal League disbanded, and Roush was purchased by John McGraw and the Giants. Roush didn't care much for John McGraw, so McGraw traded him to Cincinnati, along with Christy Mathewson, who was sent to Cincinnati by his friend to become their new manager, and Bill McKechnie, who would go on to the Hall of Fame as a manager. Roush was mostly happy in Cincinnati, but had contract disputes before several seasons, including their World Championship season of 1919. In 1922, he held out until July due to his contract. He threatened to hold out again when traded back to the Giants before the 1927 season, until McGraw convinced him that he was valued. Unfortunately, by that time, Roush's legs were giving out on him, and he had to have an operation to repair some torn muscles in his stomach in 1928. The entire 1930 season in a dispute before returning to the Reds in 1931 and retired after the season. All of this is to say that despite playing in 18 seasons, Roush didn't even crack 2,000 games played and averaged only 109 games a season in his career. This hurts a lot of his counting numbers as he couldn't put up much value due to not being on the field. Roush, like so many others already covered, also suffers from pure effect, and once again it's due to this guy. Babe Ruth's power surge in the 1920s had such a profound effect on the game that if a player wasn't hitting for an extremely high average, he really didn't produce much value offensively without power. But Roush also suffers when compared to other center fielders who played around the same time as he did in the power department. Ty Cobb, who famously spoke out against the idea of trying for home runs in power, still managed to hit 117 home runs in his career. Cobb's rival, Tris Speaker, also hit for 117 home runs, and both players spent quite a bit of time in the dead ball era before Babe Ruth's power surge. Roush played most of his games in that high offensive power surge, but still played it like it was the dead ball era, which devalues a lot of his numbers, as high batting averages were the norm during most of the 1920s. Roush was a very good hitter, but not good enough to be considered one of the all-time greats. Thanks for checking out today's episode of Edd Roush. What do you guys think about his selection? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons to get updates on the next episode. You can also leave a comment for the hint for tomorrow's episode. This right fielder was part of Boston's $1 million outfield in the 1910s. That's all for this time. I'll see you next time.